the program of language is an open-ended one, and that we are dynamically caught up in it, that we are language. That's what distinguishes us from those who chirp and twitter and romp in the trees, that we are language, and that language is evolving. It's changing, and that in fact what we call culture is nothing more than a kind of shock wave trailing behind the forward edge of this language-making capacity, because you can't invent it before you can say it, you can't sell it before you can describe it, you can't do anything with it until it exists as a commandable set of syntactical connections. Can you imagine a more multi-purpose mutational, adaptational change that would serve you well than being able to think clearly? I mean, if a flatworm could think clearly, evolutionary horizons would open before it, or any other organism. It's like a super non-specific immune response. You can handle any problem. Give me a problem. I'm a thinker. I can handle it. You know, one of the things that I think happened in the 60s that supports my case, in the wake of LSD, you see a tremendous enriching of language, endlessly sneered at by those who don't talk that way. But, it introduced the notion of the vibe, the ego trip. These are worthwhile concepts. The bummer, the flashback. These are linguistic pearls that, crystallized out of that experience. See, I believe that the psychedelics are working at the cultural level to promote language, but also it's not simply a linear enriching of language. There's also something going on biologically, that language is actually gaining in the vertical dimension in its beholdability. When you listen to my voice, if you understand what I'm saying, it's because my incoming words cause you to go to your dictionary and look them up one by one, and if your dictionary is pretty close to my dictionary, we will understand each other. But the whole act of communication depends on this assumption that the dictionaries are the same. If they're not the same, then you will not understand me. If, on the other hand, I could make you see what I mean, this is not a culturally conditioned avenue of information transfer. You don't have to learn English to look at an English woman. It's easy. You just do it. It's at the biological level. And so this is, I think, in terms of consciousness expansion, you say, well, it's good as a general notion, but what direction is it moving? It's moving in the direction of literally a clarifying of language into something that can be beheld. And it's an arrow toward a greater domain of existential validity that each of us can move in. We need to communicate. We need to find out who we are, each of us individually, and then we need to tell each other. The whole dominator style of unstoned culture engineering is ego. That's what happens when you don't take psychedelic drugs as a culture. Ego flows in. That's what was happening on the plains of Africa. Every Saturday night, everybody was getting loaded, and boundaries were dissolving. The boundary of the assumption of the uniqueness of the individual. They were taking these things and they were having, group sex, basically. These were the two things. It's clear because of the quality of psilocybin that it actually, at mid-range doses, causes arousal. You see, at very low doses, it increases visual acuity. Therefore, your hunting improves. Therefore, you and your progeny are more successful. And then at slightly higher doses, everybody's horny, and there's a lot of activity in the group and partying. At higher doses, then that turns into religion, and you're just slammed to the floor of the cave, you know. So it's this three-step thing which plays on our basic needs to drive us into a deeper and deeper relationship with this mystery. And it's such a huge idea that this is what we are, that this is so fundamental, that this isn't just some curiosity of, you know, hedonic West Coast, so forth and so on, but that it is in fact central to understanding and defining humanness, and to trying to grab some of the controls of this sinking submarine of a planet and get it back up to the surface long enough for us to all climb in a rowboat and to make our way somewhere.